Hey friends, I kind of left y'all hanging and didn't read for 2 days. I got a migraine, which is a really bad headache, and I just couldn't do it. So I had to take a break, but I'm back and I'm good and I'm better. And I am ready to read chapters 10 and 11 of the Case of the April Fool's Frogs by Nancy Starr. And this will finish up this simple chapter book for us. Chapter 10, The Festival Begins. They got to the park just before noon. A large group of their classmates was already there. Everyone was talking about the missing gowk. "We think it's a dog," said a boy named John. "We found red dog hair." "We think it's a butterfly," said a girl named Ella. "We found a cocoon." "We found 5 ladybugs," said a girl named Sally. "Could a gowk be a ladybug?" A voice interrupted them. "Thank you for coming." They all turned. It was Mr. Mack, the owner of the news store. He stood on a small stage. He smiled at the crowd. "Can everyone please take a seat?" Everyone sat down on the folding chairs facing the stage. "Welcome to the first ever Fruitvale April Fool's Festival," said Mr. Mack. "Mrs. Mack and I have had a lot of fun planning this event. We hope you've had a lot of fun too." Mrs. Mack walked onto the stage. "Everyone is invited to stop by our store after the festival," she said. "We'll be open all day." "She looks familiar," said Dottie. Lizzie was sitting in front of them. She turned around. "She's my mom." "That's why I recognized her," said Dottie. "We met her with you." "Is the new store yours?" asked Casey. Lizzie nodded. "Can you tell us the name of it?" asked Casey. "I can tell you the address," said Lizzie. "It's number 3 Fruitvale Park Road." "Number 3, said Casey. "Wasn't there a number 3 on one of the clues?" "Can I have your attention?" called Mrs. Mack from the stage. "Do we have volunteers for the look-alike contest?" Dottie and Casey raised their hands. Other people raised their hands too. Mrs. Mack invited them onto the stage. "Will the judges please come up?" asked Mrs. Mack. Lizzie ran up to the stage. "Are you the judge?" asked Casey. "I'm one of them," said Lizzie. "The other one's coming." Dottie and Casey stared as another girl ran up to the stage. They felt like they were seeing double. The girl looked exactly like Lizzie. "I'm Kate," said the other judge. "She's my sister," said Lizzie. "We're twins," said Kate. "I'm the one you met looking at the sign for the festival." "I'm the one who loves frogs and brownies," said Lizzie. "We thought you were the same person," said Dottie. "We're used to it," said Kate. "It happens all the time," said Lizzie. Dottie and Casey looked from one twin to the other. "You look taller than Kate," Dottie said to Lizzie. "She looks a whole inch taller," Casey said to Kate. "Wow," said Kate. "Hardly anyone notices that." "Most people think we're exactly the same," said Lizzie. "You two would make great detectives." Dottie and Casey smiled. Then they lined up for their turn in the contest. Mrs. Mack called out their names. Dottie and Casey tried to walk exactly the same way. They held out their matching notebooks and pens as they walked. They stopped at the same time. They wrote in their notebooks. They put their notebooks in their back pockets. They tossed their braids behind their shoulders. Then they smiled their biggest smiles. The crowd cheered. There were other contestants. There was a mother and a daughter look-alike. There was a brother and sister look-alike. There was even a man and his dog look-alike. Finally, it was time to pick the winners. Lizzie and Kate walked across the stage studying all the contestants. "We picked Dottie," said Lizzie, "and Casey," said Kate. The crowd cheered again. "Do we win a gowk?" asked Casey. "We'll give out prizes later," said Mr. Mack, "but I have medals for you now." Lizzie gave a medal to Dottie. Kate gave one to Casey. "Now it's time for the egg juggling contest," announced Mrs. Mack. Casey, Dottie, Lizzie, and Kate sat down. "I thought Leon was going to enter this contest," said Dottie. Casey looked around. "Where is Leon?" Leon was nowhere to be seen. "Look," Dottie said to Casey, "your mother is juggling eggs." Casey looked at the stage. Her mother was trying to juggle 3 eggs. She dropped them all and laughed. Everyone laughed with her. "Did you know your uncle could juggle?" Casey asked. Dottie looked. Her Uncle Eddie was trying to juggle 4 eggs. He dropped them all too. Everyone laughed some more. "Anyone else?" asked Mr. Mack. Warren Bunn and Derek Fleck ran up onto the stage. They threw eggs at each other. Mrs. Bunn and Mrs. Fleck ran over and chased them back to their seats. "We have 2 winners," said Mr. Mack. He gave medals to Mrs. Callender and Uncle Eddie. The crowd cheered. Does my mom win a gawk? Asked Casey. Does anyone know what a gawk is? Asked Mr. Mack. People called out ideas. A dog, a butterfly, a salamander, a cat, a hummingbird, a fish. Dottie, someone called. Casey. Dottie and Casey turned. It was Leon. They ran over to him. Leon whispered in their ears. Dottie and Casey whispered in Leon's ears. The three friends smiled at each other. I guess no one figured it out, Mr. Mack said to the crowd. Wait, Casey said. We figured it out, Leon added. Dottie smiled. We know where the missing gawk is. Everyone got quiet and waited. The Calendar Club ran onto the stage to explain. Chapter 11, our last chapter, Finding the Gawk. Dottie, Casey, and Leon stood next to Mr. and Mrs. Mack. Leon held up a big book. It's in here, Leon told the crowd. That's not a gawk, Warren called out. Why are you showing us a book? Because I was thinking about a city in Louisiana called Rain, Leon explained. It's known as the frog capital of the world. That got me wondering if there was a gawk capital of the world, so I went to the library. What did you find there? Asked Mrs. Mack. This book, said Leon. It's about different traditions, and it talks about hunting for the gawk. That's a tradition in Scotland. You do it on April Fool's Day. You didn't find the gawk at all, did you? Asked Warren. That's the point, said Leon. Hunting the gawk is like going on a wild goose chase. Everyone runs around looking for the gawk, but there is no gawk. You have lots of fun, but you can't ever find it. That's the way it usually works, said Dottie, but today we did find it. Where is it? Asked Derek. I don't see it. Did you see the new store? Asked Casey. Number 3 Fruitvale Park Road. The name of the store is a secret, said Dottie, but we think we figured it out. Is the name of your store The Missing Gawk? Casey asked. Yes, said Mr. Mack. He smiled. It's a toy store, said Mrs. Mack. She smiled. We'll also have costumes on Halloween, said Kate, and a frog jumping contest every April Fool's Day, said Lizzie. Is that where all the frogs came from? Asked Casey. Your store? Kate and Lizzie nodded. That brings us to our last contest, said Mr. Mack. Mr. Cliff, can you get the frogs? Dottie, Casey, and Leon helped Mr. Cliff get the frogs from his truck. Everyone lined up to choose one. Warren pushed to the front of the line. He took his sister with him. Emma, he said, pick the biggest one. Soon everyone had a frog. Officer Gill blew his whistle. The frog jumping contest began. Warren's frog didn't move. It was too big. Derek's frog jumped fast, but it went the wrong way. Dottie's frog jumped far. Leon's frog jumped farther. Casey's frog jumped ahead of Leon's frog, but Kate and Lizzie's frog jumped farthest of all. The contest was over. Mr. and Mrs. Mack said everyone was a winner. Then they handed out prizes from the missing gawk. Dottie got a large stuffed bird with bright blue feathers. These feathers look just like the feather we found, said Dottie. This must be where the first clue came from. You're right, said Lizzie. Casey got a toy guitar. The strings were hard as wire. Is this where the second clue came from? She asked. Is the fishing line really a guitar string? Right again, said Kate. Leon got a fake snake kit. It had wooden pieces that fit together to make a snake. The picture on the box showed a cobra with fangs. This must be where the snake fang came from, Leon said. That's a relief, said Dottie. I wasn't very happy thinking there was a snake with fangs on the loose. There was lots of laughter as everyone looked at their prizes. Then Mr. Mack announced the festival was over. Thanks for coming, said Mrs. Mack. Mr. Mack and Mr. Cliff invited Dottie, Casey, Leon, Lizzie, and Kate to come with them to release the frogs. They went to the pond behind Fruitvale Elementary School and let the frogs go. They watched them disappear behind trees, under leaves, and into the shallow water. I hope we get to go on another gawk hunt next year, said Leon. Mr. Mack smiled. I'm sure that can be arranged. Then the three friends headed back to Daisy Lane. They hadn't gotten far when voices called out behind them. Hey, Leon! It was Warren and Derek on their bikes. There's a giant woodpecker about to attack you, Warren yelled. It's going to peck your head if you don't run, yelled Derek. Leon, Dottie, and Casey turned around. Their eyes got wide. They looked amazed. What is it? Asked Derek. Leon pointed. It's the frogs, he said. We set them free behind the school. But they're coming back, said Dottie. Why do they look so mad? Asked Casey. Warren started to pedal away as fast as he could. Wait for me, called Derek. April Fools, called Leon. Warren skidded to a stop. He turned and looked. There weren't any frogs. There was just Dottie, Casey, and Leon laughing. Made you look, said Leon, and the three friends skipped all the way home. And that is the end, my friends. We'll start a new chapter book tomorrow, and I hope you join me then.